Yes, we had a great time on vacation, thank you very much. In 1990, Cajun Methodist Church, which is a British Methodist church, had a problem. They're one of the largest of the British Methodist churches, which means they have about 300 members or so. And the parsonage that they owned was really in bad shape. And they had a problem because in the British Methodist Church, things operate a little bit differently. And the one thing, all pastors get paid the same. So that the one thing that distinguishes a really good appointment from a really bad appointment is the parsonage. The parsonage the Cajun Methodist Church owns had been built in the Victorian era. Now, it had had some modern plumbing, if you call British plumbing modern, and electricity installed, but past that, it really had not been kept up very well. And no preacher would come. So the church decided, well, we've got to do some repair work. And that was true. And in the meantime, then, the postmaster of that town and his wife actually lived above the post office. In England, that's a fairly common thing to do. And across the road from the post office, then, her mother had a one-story house that her mother lived in. But in 1990, her mother had gotten bad enough in health that the postmaster and his wife moved her mother over with them so that they could care for her more directly. And that meant that the house was empty. And so this couple then offered Cajun Methodist Church the use of this empty house for 1 year if they could find an interim pastor. Now, they don't do interim pastors in England much, but in this case, Cajun Methodist Church was put in touch with Perkins School of Theology at Southern Methodist University. And there was a young man there who was looking to do what's called a post-internship in England as part of his studies. And so Kathryn Strempke then was appointed as the interim pastor at Cajun Methodist Church from 1990 to 1991. Now, he and I were engaged at the time. We were both going to seminary. And the next time that he called the district superintendent in England, he said, "Can I bring a girl?" And the district superintendent said, "If you marry her." So I got to go to England, and I served a different church as the associate pastor for my internship. But Kevin served as the interim pastor at Cajun Methodist Church. Now, it turns out that the British are incredibly lovely, welcoming, and polite people. So I never knew. All I heard was Kevin's side of things. But what happened was, this was Kevin's very first solo appointment ever. And Cajun Methodist Church, as one of the big churches in British Methodism, had never had a beginner pastor. And Kevin was as green as they come. And Cajun Methodists didn't really know how to go about being a teaching congregation, but they both learned. And I didn't discover most of this until some of the trips that we've been back, because 25 years later, they'll tell you some stories now. So the first week of our vacation was mostly visiting friends in England. We went to some of our favorite haunts while we were there. But mostly we were visiting friends. That postmaster and his wife, they taught us how to live in England. We were across that road every day. We were newly married, we didn't know squat, and we sure didn't know how to live in England. And they taught us so much. And so we got to stay with them that first week while we were on vacation. The second week on vacation, we went to Munich, Germany. The day we arrived was sunny and lovely. The day we left was sunny and lovely, and it snowed all in between. Now, snow is lovely if you're indoors looking out at it pile up. Not if you're out touring in it. Let me tell you something for sure. So we put on, and we hadn't got equipped, I mean, yeah, we took long sleeve shirts. This was Europe after all, but we hadn't taken gloves or a hat or anything. We did have umbrellas, and we used them the whole time. On the second day that we were in Munich, we went with a tour group, and we took a very short train ride to a small village. Well, it's not small anymore, but back in the day, it was about 8,000 people. And we took a tour and took the train ride, and when we got to the bus station, the tour guide paused and he said, all right, look, here's a map. And it was a very nice map of the town and then the tourist attraction. And he said, now one of the things that always gets asked on these tours is, when did the people of Dachau know what was going on? Dachau was a small village outside of Munich. And in 1933, the government, which had just been elected in 1932, set up a camp there. And originally, the camp's purpose was for police training. This was a special police force that you and I now know as the SS. And one of the things that they were taught in this camp was they were taught brutality. Now you know you're in trouble when the government teaches its police force brutality. That's what they did. They had brutality courses at this particular camp. And by the end of 1933, the SS had moved on to other training places. And so they converted this camp into what was originally a prison camp. And it was not a prison camp for people who had been charged with murder or robbery or anything like that. It was a prison camp set up for people who did not agree with the government that had been elected in 1932. And so there were a whole lot of different kinds of people in this particular camp. Dachau is one of the concentration camps that was set up. It existed from 1933 until 1945, and it did not start out as one of the killing camps to eradicate Jews or other minorities that the German government did not like. It simply was set up to hold political prisoners who did not agree with the government. Interestingly enough, this meant that there were several priests who were interned there, because the priests thought that they could say whatever they wanted to about the government from their pulpits. And that turned out to be a mistake, or not, depending on how you look at it. Okay, Kelly, I can have that first slide now. From 1933 to 1945, the camp of Dachau was open and operated. During that time, there were 188,000 men who were interned at some point or another in this camp. And it's very interesting because if you go with a tour guide, they'll show you some things that you don't know to look for. So when we went into one of the barracks, there was a reconstructed bunk, and it was in 3 tiers. It was a 3-tier bunk bed, basically. And the bunk bed had a ladder, so that you could climb up into the 3rd tier. And what the tour guide said was, now this is one of the early bunks. This is like 1933, 34, 35. And then we went into the next room, and it also had 3-tiered bunk beds, and he said, now, do you see anything that's missing? And somebody in our group finally said, there's no ladder. He said, that's right, there's no ladder. Because by the end of the war, there was absolutely no extra money, materials, food being spent on the camps. And if you couldn't climb up into the 3rd bunk yourself, then you were just out of luck. I will not describe to you some of the things that the tour guide told us or that were on display in the museum there. Because as the tour guide said, now, you need to understand once you've seen these things and once you have heard these things, you cannot unsee them. What you're looking at there is the memorial. This is the memorial done by a sculptor, and it is now on display at Dachau. Tomorrow is one of those days that you might want to fly your flag. Because tomorrow is the 72nd anniversary of Victory Europe Day. And that was the day that the democratically elected government at that point surrendered to the Allied forces. So May 8th is a good day to give a prayer of thanks for those brave men and women who served in the armed forces back in the 1930s and 1940s. On April the 29th, 1945, the American Army liberated Dachau. And by that time, the starvation level at Dachau was so severe that you could not feed the prisoners, because anything going into the system would shut down all the system. And can you imagine an 18 or 19-year-old Army kid who has liberated this camp and who, in all loving honesty, gives his candy bar to one of these scarecrows and then watches the man die after trying to eat it? In 1932, the German electorate chose what the Bible would say is a shepherd. When the Bible talks about rulers, it very, very frequently uses the imagery of shepherding. And the church then has picked up on that imagery. The church picked up on the imagery of the shepherd, and so the fourth Sunday of Easter, that's today, is always Shepherd Sunday. And the controlling scriptures, the suggested scriptures for Shepherd Sunday, always have to do with Jesus as the Good Shepherd. The Old Testament readings have to do with the kings of Israel being shepherds. Now there's a difference, of course, because in the Old Testament, what we're dealing with are kings who rise to a throne by hereditary. Nobody gets to vote for them. Or even in Jesus' day, when we read the Gospel of John, they're being ruled by an emperor in Rome. The only people who chose him was his immediate police force, the proletariat. So there's no voting for an emperor either. But those people who have the vote have a special responsibility, because we get to choose our shepherds. We get to choose the leaders that the Bible is very clear God holds responsible. The sculpture at Dachau represents those prisoners who finally could not tolerate the Dachau camp any longer. And they threw themselves into the barbed wire that surrounded the camp and was electrified. The thief comes to steal and kill and destroy. And bad shepherds kill and destroy. They may not do it with their own hands, but it happens anyway. Yesterday, you and I, or some of us at least, had the opportunity to go vote. And we will have chosen shepherds who are going to lead us. And the Bible is very clear how to tell the difference between a bad shepherd and a good shepherd. Jesus says, I am the good shepherd, and the very next sentence, I lay down my life for the sheep. I give myself for the sake of the sheep. And all of our leaders, those whom the Bible would describe as shepherds, have that to measure up to. I am the good shepherd. I lay down my life for the sheep. And in the sentence preceding that, he says, I came that they may have life and have it abundantly, and that ain't it. When there is not life, and when there is not life abundant, then we've got a bad shepherd on our hands. Now, pastors have to be really careful with this stuff, because actually that's the first description of a pastor. That's where the word comes from. Pastoral means shepherd-like. And pastors are understood to be given charge. But the reality is that all of us are accountable. All of us are accountable, and those of us who are able to elect our leaders have a special accountability. Because if we can look and we can see that life is not happening and life abundant is not happening, then it's time to change the shepherd. Those of us who have the responsibilities for being a shepherd at work, for being a shepherd at school, for being a shepherd in the play area, wherever that might be, have a responsibility. Because the good shepherd is willing to lay down the life for the sheep. It was my privilege yesterday. We had a Stop Hunger event with my Rotary. And so at Rotary, the Rotary group gathered at one of the places of business. And we packaged, I think it was about 11,000 or so meals. And it was its usual fun, those of you who've done it. But what amused me was, you know, when you have remember all that rice and the sorghum and all that stuff that you have to put, somebody always spills something, right? And what amused me was that when we began to get close to that 10,000 meal mark, the boss had gotten a broom and was beginning to sweep the floor. That's what a good shepherd looks like. This church is filled with good shepherds. Good shepherds look like people who say, we need to give out food at least once a month around here. And good shepherds are the ones who say, we need to make sure the doors are open so that we can vaccinate children who don't have their vaccinations yet. And good shepherds look like the people who say, you know, we're tired of doing whatever. And by the way, administrative council is going to talk about whatever. So you could fill in the blank with garage sale. You could fill in the blank with rock the block clothing sale. You could fill in the blank with Christmas lunch. We're tired of doing this. But the reality we have to ask is the good shepherd needing us to offer some things in order to minister to our community? And that's what shepherding looks like. That's what good shepherding looks like. I came that they might have life and have it abundantly. And the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. There's our goal. There's our standard. And everything else we do needs to be measuring up to that good shepherd. This is the fourth Sunday of Easter. This is Shepherding Sunday. And the psalm for the fourth Sunday of Easter is always Psalm 23. And so I would invite you to read responsibly with me. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want.
He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters.
He restoreth my soul.
He leadeth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil.
For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff comfort me.
Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies.
Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over.
Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life.
And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
When we choose to follow the Good Shepherd. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.